What is good, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Stay Attached podcast. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, the one, the only TacticalRab, who keeps us updated in the community with all the breaking news, Rostermania, whatever drama that's happening. He also has multiple YouTube channels. His main Call of Duty one has over 100,000, 110,000 plus subscribers and almost 100 million views, which is pretty crazy. TacticalRab, thank you for joining us. How you doing?
What's good, Dylan? Thanks for having me on. Much appreciated. Great intro, by the way. I actually didn't even know. I knew that I hit 100 million like across the channels.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that like the main one was getting up there. But yeah, it's been fun. Great to join you. I've been to like more events this year than I have like ever before this season, so it's been great. And then one more to come in Riyadh, so buzzing for that.
Okay, you are going to Riyadh. How
That's the plan. As it stands, that's the
plan.
Yeah.
How far is your flight from Riyadh? Because I know everyone has like crazy flight times, of course, because it's so far.
From the States, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? It's like easily 20 hours.
20 hours,
plus the time like switch, so it's easily well over a day. For me, it is from London. It's about a 6.5 hour flight, something like that.
Okay, that's not too bad.
So it's not dissimilar to coming to like Boston or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and then a couple hours time difference. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be hot.
Very hot.
Be hotter than Dallas. So.
Dallas is really hot, but I know Riyadh is probably going to be even hotter.
For the event, you know, it wasn't. Yeah. Like it was hot, but there was a couple of cooler days for Dallas.
Yeah, it cooled down a little bit.
The Middle East is just like they don't have cool days.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware.
Hopefully, I'm hoping we'll just be in hotel, transport to the arena, transport back to hotel, and like we're just inside for 99% of the day.
Like the AC is obviously going to be everywhere, and also it's going to be pretty chilly. Like you actually have to dress for it to be pretty cool.
Really?
Apparently the venue is kind of cool.
Okay. I'll make sure to pack, because I wasn't planning on packing any hoodies or anything, but I'll make sure I pack some jackets. And it's a good thing we're doing this interview, or I would have been freezing up on main stage. I would have been freezing up there.
Good. I got you. When you win, you know, like.
When I win, the adrenaline, you know, you won't feel it at all, so it will be good.
Yeah, also true.
But getting back to like the early days when you first started getting into gaming and everything, where have you grown up?
Yeah, so I would say like from a Call of Duty perspective, my mate at school told me I had to get Black Ops 1. That was the game.
Yeah.
So I was like 10 or 11, and he was like, this is the game you got to get. It was at the time where, you know, like Red Dead Redemption was around.
Yeah.
And he was always talking about that on the bus home from school. And it was like, Black Ops 1 is the game. I'd heard about COD on some level when I was like 10, but Black Ops 1 was the first game I got. Managed to convince the parents to.
That's always the hardest part.
For me. That was always the hardest.
That's always the hardest one.
I told them, you can turn off like the mature. I don't know if you remember this, but you can turn off like the mature settings or something like that.
Yeah.
So it won't. When you play the campaign, you won't see the blood. Or I don't really think it even works. I'm pretty sure it's just there for like to let the parents get.
That's how the kids finesse every time. They're like, you can turn off all the bad stuff. Don't worry.
Yeah. So anyway, I got it. I like that. I was on the PlayStation, so I never had an Xbox. It was PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. Like in the old school days, it was you know, for me, Star Wars Battlefront 2, absolutely the game. Like, I don't know if I went back and played it today, because I'm sure that the graphics are actually terrible.
Oh, yeah. Compared to what we're used to now,
Oh, my God. That game was the best. Like Simpsons Hit and stuff like that. That was like my old school gaming days, really. PlayStation 2. My mate across the road had a PS1, which was like really, like for me, that was even kind of ahead of my time in some ways. He was a couple of years older than me. So we'd play Battlefront 2, eventually got into COD, but I didn't even know multiplayer existed for probably 2 more years. Like all I played was a campaign. And
so you're just replaying it like over and over the campaign?
The Black Ops 1 campaign is class. And MW3 that came out the next year was the same thing. I just grinded the campaign. And then eventually I kind of figured out the multiplayer existed. I was absolutely atrocious. Like I don't know, want to go back and watch some of those old gameplays. They don't exist, so it doesn't matter. But wow, I was bad.
Yeah, we all start somewhere.
That's what I'm saying, right? It's like this whole thing with skill-based matchmaking. Like I was getting absolutely clowned on, but I wanted to be better, right? That's the point. So, you know, rather than playing against other terrible players like myself the whole time, but whatever. I think the discovery of competitive came a couple of years later. My first memory of watching competitive COD was Black Ops 2 Champs, but there's no way I was watching it live because it would have been way too late. Like I can remember it, but I must have watched it the next day on the highlights or something.
Yeah.
But like I think that was the event that kind of sparked my interest in competitive play, and then I kind of discovered a bit about GBs. Like I'd seen people play headquarters on Black Ops 1 Summit 2v2, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. I was like, oh my god, I need to get my mate to try and play this. And eventually I think we did, but it was really Advanced Warfare that actually
it's a good game. That's a good game. That's a good game.
It's a good game.
It's a real good game.
Yeah, not a bad one. And actually, just about when you guys are winning champs, that was when I got, because I played it on the PS3, and if anyone's played Advanced Warfare on the PS3,
I can only imagine the graphics, like how bad it would be on the PS3.
Like, the port to the old school consoles was trash.
Yeah.
So it was awful. I was like, okay, I've got to get the PS4. And I think I got it in like February that year was when I actually properly got Advanced Warfare.
Yeah.
So it was pretty similar around the time that obviously champs happened that year. It was in March or April, whatever. I'm sure you know better than me. But yeah, so that was the game. And a couple of friends I had that I'd met playing Black Ops 2 League play, they were getting into game battles. So that's when I started to play with them. And then I got pretty addicted to competitive cards. And even though that year I didn't really follow much of competitive, I watched the odd tournament during Ghost and Advanced Warfare.
Yeah.
But it was mainly Black Ops 3 that I properly got into watching all the time.
Yeah, you were like, you didn't miss a match back in Black Ops 3.
I mean, I was getting up in the morning to watch the bloody APAC League. I'd get home from school, and it would be the European League. And then then I'd go to swimming training. I'd come back home, and then by like 8 or 9 p.m., the North American
League would start.
Up. So it was just absolutely like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Wow,
just filled with Call of Duty. Did you ever like want to become professional and like try to take that seriously and sign up for tournaments and stuff? Or how did like that go for you?
Yeah, I could go for this a little bit. Yeah. So like, I knew I was never good enough to actually be pro, but during Black Ops 3, we formed a bit of a team. So me, one of my friends from Ireland, and this other guy that we played with quite a lot from Germany. And then we found a fourth, and that kind of off season, I think it was like basically the summer of the Black Ops 3 year. So we're talking 2016 or whatever. 2016. And we were just getting on, grinding every day. We would find scrims in the PlayStation communities, and we would play we would play a scrim, and halfway through map 1 the other team would just rage quit or something like that,
because you were slamming
very rarely we were slamming them. But also, like, back then GAs weren't really a thing, right?
Oh, so, no,
like we played to win. Like I was the main AR, and like I would spawn into Fringe with a Shiva because
you would just be two-bulleting everyone.
Yeah, I would just be because like I don't. You know, at that point, there wasn't any mentality about that. I know people got annoyed about us using it, but it's like, these are the rules of the game. I'm going to use a Shiva. That's how it is. I'm going to use the Man of War on Breach. Like, this is life. So some teams didn't like it, but whatever. This is the game. And we were never like that good. We did win one tournament. We played one.
Okay.
At the end of the summer, we finally won a tournament. And then I won some other like 3v3 tournament, like search tournament we played.
Yeah.
But it was like the final map of it, I think, is on my YouTube channel from way back in the day. We played some Dutch team, and I remember it quite vividly, really. We won the game 1, Fringe, smoked him, I dropped like 50 kills. Game 2 was Redwood Search. That was like our bread.
You were wall running on trees and everything.
We were not losing Redwood Search. The amount of search and destroy GBs I played on that game is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, and then we lost, it was Breach Uplink, I think we lost. And then we closed it out on Stronghold CTF. We won like 2-1. It's a crazy game.
You never forget the first tournament you win, ever. You never forget the first gold you win.
Oh.
hey, but you still won one. Not everyone could say they've won a tournament, especially in like the glory days of online tournaments. Because nowadays, like online tournaments are dead. Barely anyone plays them. It's just like wagers or just pretty much chows now through Twitter. But back in the day in Black Ops 3, you could play tournaments that they would like fill up. Like every night there'd be a 3v3 that would have 30 plus teams in it. Every night there would be a 2v2 that would have 40, 50 plus teams every night. So like that was actually the prime online tournament S&D time to grind. It was so fun back then.
Yeah, it brings a tear to the eye, really thinking
It
about
does.
it.
It does. And now it's so dead, which is unfortunate.
You know, those nights watching like Nick Merckx and Gage
Yeah.
and whatever the team was, like
Yeah.
grind out S&D trials, that used to be like my whole life.
Amps,
Yeah.
That was real fun back in the day. I miss those days. I really just hope they'll come back, but they've tried and like they just can't because the tourney sharking, where like there's one person or there's a bunch of people in 4 different tournaments. So you start a tournament at 7 p.m. and it doesn't end until 4 a.m. And that's just not like, if they were to like force rules and like making sure you can only be in one tournament, it could possibly work. But unfortunately, like they don't want to do that. So I don't see online tournaments coming back for a while, unfortunately, because it is really fun though at the beginning of the game when you get to play.
Agreed. Yeah, it's also the search and destroy scene and stuff as well. Like if we could get that back, it'd be nice. I think there's, you know, and the switch to PC, it's just complicated a few things. Like, I don't think it's ever going to be quite what it was.
Can't. Too many people might be using soft aim, other hacks, and crazy stuff. I'm getting 102 kills dropped on me in rank play on the day 1 of the new season. Like, it's just chalked now. Like, it's so bad. But moving aside from the competitive Call of Duty, when did you really start getting into like content, and how did that happen? Because I feel like you're one of the only people in like the Call of Duty content space that made it, that wasn't a professional or like part of a big organization that had like that would like back you. How did you really get into it and know you wanted to do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, I've been making content of some form or another since I was very young. Like there's YouTube channels of mine that I'm not gonna like say what they are, but if people, I would be very impressed if someone was actually able to find them.
Well, now you challenged everyone that's going to hear this.
Them, yeah. So it's possible, like, you know, go out there and try, because when I would say 9, 10, 11, 12, something like that, I had a couple of channels where I would do magic tricks. So
there's a TacticalRab magic
tricks.
channel?
Yeah. Back in the day.
Does anyone know? Is this public knowledge, or do people know this channel yet or no?
No, this isn't. I've never said this, I don't think, publicly. There's a few people who I know that know.
Okay.
But even then, like, there's not many people that I know that actually would know what the channel was called and everything.
Yeah.
That, like, knew me when it was going on. But the funny thing is these videos were banging. Like,
really,
I had some serious haters.
Of course, you always do.
Way more haters back then, like, especially when you're a kid. Like, you have so many haters in the comment section. It was actually funny to read through. I think that kind of built a little bit of mental resilience, to be fair, just because like I was dealing with these guys trashing me in the comments for decades at this point. But like the thing is, the videos are banging, but I couldn't convince my dad to like let me turn on the monetization.
Really?
Yeah, because like I'd have made decent money from those channels back then, especially like pre Apocalypse, whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there was good money to be made. I remember I printed out all the like 20 pages of the monetization agreement to give to my dad so he could give it to his friends and something so they could sign it. I don't know. And it never happened, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, so I've been making content for ages. And even this old channel, all the videos I've made on the current TacticalRab channel are still up there. Because in the early days, I would just make like gameplay. It wasn't like gameplay commentaries, but it was like gameplay analysis videos. So I basically take like a public match gameplay and I would just kind of break down, you know, getting like 50 kills in a TDM in Black Ops 2 or something, and just kind of explain, all right, what am I doing? What loadout am I using? What strategy am I going to try and use to get this, or whatever, get a nuclear and ranked play or whatever. Cool stuff like that. And so I was always kind of making content, but the transition to competitive play happens, to be honest, it's not far off 6 years ago to the day. I think it was August 2018, round about that anyway, maybe even July 2018 to be fair, when, so people will be aware probably of Thorin, Duncan Shields, esports historian, whatever you want to say, controversial character. He has his own YouTube channel, and I remember watching a video that he made back in, I think it was 2018 time, and he talked about how he was on, and I think it was a 92-day uploading streak, and he pretty much just sat there and talked about stuff in Counter-Strike or League of Legends or whatever. Like, he would just do a 10-minute video nattering about a topic. And you know, guys like Rondez Fox, who, you know, much appreciation for him, and others in COD, kind of did a similar thing when there were roster changes happening. They'd talk about the announcement or whatever the case was. But he made a video, Thorin did, about how, you know, he hadn't told anyone, but he'd done it for like, you know, 3 months in a row, no breaks, anything like that. And so, and he was like, it's not that hard to talk for 10 minutes about a topic a day. So I thought, all right, let me give it a go.
Yeah.
So I think the first video I did was talking about the Black Ops 4 beta. And I just it was like a 25-minute video or something. And I just talked about the things I thought were good or bad for competitive play, and probably put it on the Reddit. And it generated some discussion, got a decent amount of views, made a couple of other videos. And then really it was when Rostermania happens that year. So I think it was the 2nd of September 2018. I think I remember the date when I made Rostermania Rumors episode 1. Yeah. And this was when Dashy was joining OpTic, right? So it was like OpTic Dashy or whatever. And I remember like 2 days before, a day before, I came up with this idea of like, well, what if I just take all these roster rumors that people are talking about on Reddit and Twitter or whatever, and I just make a video about it just to help people know what's going on. And that video did like 35,000 views. So
yeah,
like,
that's good.
I've clearly got something going on here.
Yeah.
So yeah, then over the next year or so, it kind of became to the point that I could start to do it daily. It was difficult when I worked people know that I worked for Intel. So the stock price is absolutely in the bin right now.
So you left, and that's why the stock price went all the way down, is what happened.
I left, my friends left, and it's all been downhill since then. But I worked for them for a year, like kind of during that COVID year. But when I moved there to work, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep doing videos during the weekend, working a full-time job. But like I would get home at like 6, I'd make a video. That'd be like 8 p.m. because I was not very efficient back then, to be honest. Yeah. I could have been way more efficient today.
Hey, it's all learning. It's all a part of learning it.
Exactly, yeah. And then make dinner. And then it'd be like 9:30, 10. I've just got to go to bed. Like that was my day every day. But it worked. I mean, just being consistent like that.
Yeah.
And really, it was COVID. Like COVID helps quite a lot for me. As difficult as it was for so many people, it was quite useful from a content perspective because I could start to make 2 videos a day. I could make one at lunchtime because I was at home rather than being in the office. And then in the afternoon, when I'd done all my work for the day, I could just sit there making a thumbnail. Like it was quite useful.
Yeah.
And obviously people started watching more during that time. So I think it was like early 2021. I wasn't too far away from like graduating at this point. Like kind of March 2021, things like really kicked off on the channel, having been consistent with it for like 2.5 years. Because I think the more you do it, the more you just start to, even if you're not consciously trying to improve things, you just naturally get better.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to do a video every day, you're going to get better at doing it. Your lighting is slowly going to get better because you know what to do. You're going to get better at your delivery and structuring the content because you just naturally will improve and you'll pick up on what works well. And even on like thumbnails, like I've never consciously made a decision in terms of let me try this with the thumbnail. Really, it's just been iteration over 5 years, and the thumbnails are still ugly, whatever, like, but they're effective.
They work as long as it works. It doesn't matter if they're perfect, ugly, whatever. If people are clicking on them, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. So I think just naturally having made bloody 3,000 videos or whatever.
Gee, that's crazy.
That's just how things go. So yeah, that pretty much takes us up to the present day, I suppose.
Yeah, that's insane. How like so you still make your thumbnails to this day?
Yeah, I make all of them because it's more so about efficiency of the operation, if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to upload a couple of videos a day on this channel, and if I have a thumbnail guy, who I could absolutely have, like I've got no issues with that concept. And I think it's a lot of people that make content are probably reluctant to outsource things. But just in the style of stuff that I do, it's like, let's say something happens dramatically this evening and my thumbnail guy is out, on the lash, down the pub or something, like, so what am I gonna do? At that point I've got to make it myself, or sometimes like tomorrow I've got to get up really early because I've got to go to this event thing, so I'm going to be up at the crack of dawn and I need the thumbnails made by a certain time of day anyway, and it honestly takes more time. It's literally quicker for me to make it in 8 to 10 minutes than it is for me to try and give some ideas and then get one back.
And then they have to, exactly. You have to like review it, might want to change some things.
Exactly, yeah. But big videos, absolutely right. Like if we're doing like, documentary or something,
of course,
then sure,
it's a little different.
Run through iterations, and I'm not going to make it myself. But even for the Formula One stuff, like I did decide to actually properly learn how to use Photoshop to at least make acceptable level, thumbnails, just because like that requires, in COD, there's no competition, respectfully.
Yeah.
But in F1, like there's bigger market, more competition. So like I needed to level that up a little bit. But I don't feel like I think in COD it's actually better the way that I currently do it.
Yeah.
Personally.
Who's your favorite driver and team in F1?
Good question. So when I first watched Formula One was probably 2007, 2008 with my dad.
Damn,
I was about 8 or 9.
Long time ago.
And that was right when Lewis Hamilton was coming into the sport. So he was like the hot name on the scene.
Yeah.
This like young rookie British driver. There was a lot of debate. Was he going to be good? Was he going to be the next champion? Like, because there was so much hype around him. So Hamilton was always the driver that I supported. And I probably watched 2008, 2009, 2010, up till maybe 2012 on and off, just because at that time Vettel took over, Red Bull were dominating, got kind of dull to me. And then I didn't really watch much at all during the Mercedes Hamilton domination years, the occasional race maybe, until 2021 really. So I think it was mid 2021. My housemate at the time, big motorsports guy, and it was actually pretty cool. I went to the Indianapolis 500 back in May, and he was there working with one of the Indy teams.
Oh, damn.
So I got to spend some time with him as well. But yeah, he was one of my housemates at university, like huge into all things motorsport, really introduced me to IndyCar.
Yeah.
But every Sunday he'd have the Grand Prix on and would bring people over to watch it. So I thought, all right, not a bad time to get back into watching F1. And obviously was a pretty memorable season. So after the finale of 2021, I was like, I have to try and do this, like what I do in COD and Valorant as it was then in F1, to see if it works. Because when I decided to like do the Valorant stuff as well, it was more like, all right, does this concept of giving like a daily news recap work in another esport? The answer was yeah. And so then it was like, oh, does it work in Formula One? You have to go about it slightly differently, but
yeah, of course,
it was a good time to try. And it's interesting to see for me, like, because it took me a good few years in CODs to really make it work, so that it's actually like a viable job. Whereas in Valorant and F1, it took me like 2 months, maybe a month to like, monetize it and make it work, because I kind of knew what I was doing.
You probably knew, just because you've done it for years. So like you had an idea, like you just had to, tweak a couple things, and then everything started popping off, I'm sure. But you knew like the base things, and probably a lot more advanced than others who were just be the ones uploading it, because you know the ins and outs of YouTube now. You're a master at it.
Yeah, at least what I do. Like, YouTube's a complicated game.
Of course.
And I think, when people think of people that do YouTube and content, they think of like your Mr. Beast type, right? And they're doing mega production quality videos. Yeah. They're doing like a video or 2 videos a month, and they're taking so much time to create it. Like, the way that I do it is obviously very different. The videos don't take long to make, but I just do a lot of them. And that's also a viable option. So it's just how much, you're willing to sacrifice in some way. I would not have it any other way, but like I do it every single day. Like I've not, apart from Christmas, I make an extra video on Christmas Eve, and then I don't do a video Christmas Day. But apart from that, I've made a video every day for like 6 years.
No, you don't actually make a video on Christmas? You were my favorite YouTuber, but now that I know you don't make a video every single day, you take one day off. I think I might have to change that. I'm sorry.
I think we might actually just chalk up the whole podcast.
We're gonna have to chalk it up. Can't believe he doesn't make a video 365. He only does 364.5.
Well, if it's a leap year, then it's 365.
Oh, okay, yeah, true. But going back to Call of Duty a little bit, when you were like coming up and as a player, just starting out on YouTube, did you ever have a favorite team or player?
Definitely. I mean, back in Black Ops 2, I would watch all of Scump's videos.
Yeah.
Scump, Nade actually to a lesser extent. I was like, I didn't really watch much Nature. I was a Scump fanboy.
Scump guy.
Sure.
Scump guy.
Scump guy for sure. Watching, God, I mean, the amount of, the one that my favorite one of his was on this map called Cove. It was a DLC map on Black Ops 2. And he dropped like a double swarm, like 100 kills. Just some insane gameplay. And I would watch all of his videos, and I would be interested by, I wouldn't even watch the events, but I'd watch his video when he got back from the event. Like, he would do his post-event vlogs,
okay.
Right?
Yeah, like a recap,
like,
yeah.
They were like, I don't know why players don't do this more often. I know that some players do, But I used to love watching those. And it wasn't even like a good video. Scott would just sit there. There wasn't any graphics or anything. So it would just sit there in front of the camera and talk about what happened.
Yeah.
And some of it he'd misremember, but like whatever. It was just good content.
Yeah.
And he would just sit there and yap about the event and that they'd won or they'd lost or whatever. But at that point, I wasn't really interested in the competitive scene. I was just more interested in like the gameplay and trying to get better and watching the best players and stuff like this. So, and then once I got into competitive properly, then obviously I was like wanted Scump to do well. And I always wanted Scump to do well, like, you know, his whole career until he retired. But I think after a year or two following it, then my interests quickly became towards the European players.
Yeah.
So from Black Ops 3, like the end of Black Ops 3, I was sad that OpTic lost for sure. But once Infinite Warfare came around, I was much more about supporting, you know, the UK boys mainly. So that year was a good year for UK COD. I mean, we had Splice, obviously, that won stage 1. The Epsilon team were very good. Like at Anaheim that year, it was LG won the event, Splice was second, Epsilon were third. So that was what I was mainly supporting. And then World War II, that was definitely the case. Right? We had like Unilad and Red Reserve.
A lot of
like
solid teams.
Like, and also Splice. I mean, the first event I ever went to was Birmingham that year.
Okay.
The Yama.
That was a terrible monitor. Right? The terrible monitors.
Yeah. So
the 5ms lag.
I was a referee for that event.
Oh, really?
To be a referee in the Challengers pit. So it was like a wild experience because I was just basically sleeping on the floor in one of these massive convention rooms, and like it was just a volunteer thing. But I wanted to go, and it was like you can volunteer and you get to attend the event for free. So I was like,
I was like, oh, it's perfect.
Why not? Let me do it. And I was refereeing like 4 matches at once. That was back when the Cronus started to become a thing.
Oh yeah.
So people were like, "Oh, this Cronus is bugging. Like, get me another one." And they would just have a basket of Cronuses.
Yeah.
And I would just pick a new one out and give it to the player that was complaining, and then they would try that one and see if it's better or not.
Yeah.
I remember like I refereed Dylan Codd's first ever match as a
player.
Player. That was his first ever tournament.
Did he win?
Yeah, he won. There was a funny moment. I mean, Dylan Codd, what a guy. I wish he was still around the scene.
Yeah.
Like during this first series he played, I don't forget the team he was on now. At the end of the year, he was on like Brawn Esports or something weird, but I forget who he played for then. But they were playing some team they're obviously going to beat. And mid hardpoint, he's frying these guys. He puts his controller down. He picks up a packet of Belvita biscuits and he rips them open and starts knobbing into one mid-map, and then he picks the controller up again, pops a 2-piece that goes on to win the game. I was like, okay, this guy's absolutely built different. Full of confidence as well for like his first ever game. But obviously then the Challengers pit concludes. I refereed one game with OpTic. There was a bit of drama that, I mean, I'm going on a mad tangent here, but I think this is kind of interesting story.
No, you're good.
So there was some, I think it was an Italian coach who was right up behind his players in the Challengers pit, just talking. And I had no idea what he was talking about. Like nobody, whether he was just hyping up his team or whether he was literally comming for one of the players in his ears. So we had to come up with a rule to say, all right, no coaches are even allowed on the stage. So I had to tell TP to get off the stage because like he was standing behind his boys on like something, and I basically had to tell him that he can't do it. There was also a series that when Doug at Lightning Pandas was playing against FaZe, I think he knocked them out. I saw that go down.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah, I remember that.
And then I was backstage when Splice played OpTic in like one of the big games, and that was such a cool moment for me as like a fan at that point, because I'd come from being an OpTic fan, being a big fan of like European cards, and the crowd was so split, right? Because even over there in the UK, half the crowd was still
loves OpTic,
and probably half the crowd was supporting Splice.
The hometown boys,
and it was on Bravo stage. It was like such a big game, and it went Game 5, Round 11, Ardennes Forest Search and Destroy. Bance pops like a 3-piece with the fighter pilot or something.
Damn.
And Madcat pops the finger guns, which is the famous moment of that moment. So that was a memorable kind of first event. And then, in recent times, I still support the European players. But I'm kind of more impartial now. Like, I think every time I start to cover something, I get a little bit more impartial about it.
Yeah.
Because what I'm really interested in is the storylines.
Yeah.
I don't really, I don't really care who wins or loses. It's more that I care about the results going in the favor of good story. So like,
yeah, and what does this mean? Yeah,
you know,
of course, get the views up. Get the views up. Now that we know some of the people you like, do you have a favorite team or player you don't like throughout the years? It could be now or it could be previous. Like I didn't really like that player or team. They just bothered me.
Oh, that's an interesting question, actually. I don't know if I ever actually did. I think there's a couple of players that I wouldn't say I've had like beef with, but
Ooh.
I think there's a couple of players that don't like. A lot of guys nowadays, they get it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't expect the players to like what I do. I don't expect them to like the content because it's not made for them, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the players nowadays, they get it and they recognize that, like, if I wasn't here, somebody else would be doing it. And also,
it's gonna happen regardless.
Thing in COD, not even in COD, but just in life, where you can have a million positive things said about you, but the one negative thing is a problem. It's the same for me. Like, people can gas me up on Reddit and say X, Y, Z, but then you see one negative comment and like that's the one that gets you,
Yeah.
So it's the same with the players. Like, I can talk about a player in a certain way, in a positive way or whatever, for loads of videos, and then the one negative video, it's a problem.
Yeah.
I get it. Like, it's not just them that are the result of this. But I think the one like Octane and me used to have a bit of a back and forth.
Oh, Samuel LaRue.
We're chilled out. But like, yeah, I never disliked Octane. I always thought he was sound.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There was a few moments over the years, like Black Ops 4 and stuff. He used to take the piss or whatever. But I always actually liked the teams that he was on, apart from like when he'd play the European teams, like during Infinite Warfare and stuff like that. I obviously wanted Splice to beat him. But it was good. It was,
I got a little TacticalRab Samuel Octane beef. We love this. We can add this on.
Octane, like, he played on such a high KD, such a high sensitivity that like he was almost like a freak of nature. Like, he'd play on a 6 or a 7 on an AR.
Yeah.
And Zero would play on like a 3 or a 4.
No, I know Trey would always play a super slow one. Yeah.
I was the main AR for my team. So I was like, I was watching, all of Octane's videos when he used to make these videos, how to anchor on Black Ops 3. Like, I was, I'd watch all his shit. But I weren't good enough to play like him.
It's okay. I don't really like Octane either, so that's fine. That's fine. I don't like Sam either.
No, I like that. I owe him a steak dinner. We can make it work in Dallas. So
I think you owe a lot of people a steak dinner, actually. I think you owe a lot of people. Speaking of steak dinners, have you taken Dashy out yet to a steak dinner? Or
no, look. We tried to make this happen. Like, at the World Championship, I had it all like planned out. Where we were going to go, got some recommendations for steakhouses in Dallas that were going to work well for what we were trying to do, make it a bit of a content thing, maybe like get the OpTic team in to film it or whatever. Because it'd be Dashy and like, I think AG as well.
Yeah.
I said I'd buy him a steak dinner after the whole like the Miami Club Gate thing.
Oh yeah.
This season. Yeah. So there was, but like and Hex was going to tell me over in the year when we spoke of Boston briefly, it's like, let's send me the details and we'll make it work. But I just think that given the way things had gone for OpTic leading into champs, it just didn't make
of course.
sense.
Yeah.
Like, because the thing is, it's actually logistically quite difficult to make these things happen because you've really got to do it either before the event.
Yeah.
Really, you've got to do it before.
It has to be before because usually everyone leaves. Yeah, everyone. Yeah.
And then Wednesday, exactly. Wednesday's media day, and you're not going to get them to do it
before a match. No,
apart maybe Thursday night
if they have, if they won on Thursday and then their Thursday's open, but you can't like plan for that because then if they end up losing, it's chalked. So
it's chalked. Yeah. So we were planning to maybe try and do it like Monday or Tuesday when we were there, but it didn't happen this time. But honestly, I think it's for the best because when it does happen,
it's gonna be good.
Event, whatever, then it's gonna be better because they'll have actually won champs.
Yeah,
like, the vibes will be better. So it's gonna happen. It's just like gotta be patient sometimes.
Yeah. What's been your favorite era of COD? Like the early MLG days, the CWL, or the CDL? What have you enjoyed the most as a spectator or a player? What do you like?
I think like my favorite for sure was the CWL, but I do think the CDL gets underrated to some degree. Might be a hot take, might just be because like I'm about nowadays watching everything, but I think what they've done with the league, and I know the structure isn't perfect, but it is quite effective for maintaining some consistency over the season. Like, I think back in the day, we were probably saved in large part by the fact that everyone streams their practice. Like, if that didn't happen, I think that during those eras, we would have the same thing we have right now in Halo, where there's just nothing happening until they play a tournament. Like, there's the benefit of having these weekend qualifiers, as poor as it is that at least every weekend there's something to talk about.
Yeah, something to talk about, look forward to.
Yeah, there's always, and like it leads into the major, it builds up some storylines for the events, and the events themselves have been in person the best that I can remember. Like, I went to a couple of events. I went to Birmingham, I went to Anaheim, and I went to London before the CDL happened, like 2018, 2019. And those events were so much better than the events we had when the CDL first came around. But what they've now developed over the last couple of years, I think, is probably from an events perspective, like at least people in person, the best it's probably ever been. The amount of people I talk to at events that are like, this is my first ever event. And most people I talk to at events, it's like their first event they've been to.
Yeah.
And I guarantee they want to come back. All of them do.
Yeah.
Because they're always fantastic. So I think in some respects, the CDL has done a good job of that. And I do, like, if we went back to the days where there was nothing on midweek and it was like 2Ks at the weekends and then there was a tournament, I think that would be in some respects better. But I think that like we want to accept that the CDL has done some things correct.
Of course, but people only look at the bad things. Everyone, like, they're always gonna pick at the bad things in the era or what's happening now. They're not gonna look at the good parts that it has helped. But I will say you definitely missed out on some of the classic MLG Anaheim days, because I feel like that and the champs.
But I know.
Anaheim and the champs tournaments back then, like like early MLG, CWO, those are the only comparable events to like the CDL ones now. Like the ones where we go to like some random place back then, like it was all right. It was like a small hotel ballroom, but the MLG Anaheims were always crazy. There were so many people. I think it was actually at its peak when there was multiple stages. So there'd be like Halo on, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 on, StarCraft. So like, I think there was even Super Smash Bros. At one of them. But each crowd would be going crazy at different times. So it would just be like, oh shit, what happened over there? You want to walk over there and watch. Then you come back to the COD one and watch this. Then you go to the Halo one. Like there was always just something to watch. But I will say, I think the CDL events are really good now. Like the one OpTic just hosted for champs was incredible. Probably the loudest event I've ever heard. Toronto does a great job hosting. Boston as well. So there's been some really fun events nowadays. But what would you, if you could change one thing or make one thing better, improve it of the CDL, what would it be for you?
Oh, it's a good question. I think the format still is my fundamental concern. Like, I actually think the way that the league is at the moment is pretty good. People were saying, oh, Octane retired and he ruined the league. But okay, maybe there was evidence for that in the first few months of the season. But the end of the year was great. I mean, I had no idea who was going to win champs. Nobody knew who was going to win champs. There was 4 teams that could have won it. There was some outsiders as well. People are saying how Seattle were better than they played at the event. Thieves were arguably like the best hardpoint team at the event. Like they played really well. Obviously you guys, like Ravens made a run, Minnesota were in the conversation, like everyone but Boston, respectfully, like they're in the mix. And I mean, we went into champs with no clear favorite, like, and we're going into the World Cup with no clear favorite. Like, if you look at the odds for the World Cup, it's like FaZe, OpTic, New York, and Toronto are basically all tied. Nobody knows who's going to win. Like, that part of the league is great. And obviously, there's talk about salary caps and this type of stuff, but I've got no problem with the way that currently is. 16 teams would be nice, but it's not like the main thing that I would change. I just want more events. Like, that would be the fundamental change that I'd make. Like, I don't understand why these seasons have to be so short. It's the thing that always annoys me. Thankfully, this year it's better because we've got the World Cup. But without that, it would be, again, another
long off season.
Yeah, because last year was just like awful, like genuinely awful. Certainly as a content creator.
It was like 6-7 months.
Champs is in June, right? The drama happened. There was, thankfully, last year, the Rostermania was crazy because everyone made a change. And then, like, New York were making changes. And the whole of Rostermania carried through, like, June, July, and August. And then September happens. And then October is always, like, the deadest month, especially when the game comes out in November. It's like, what the hell am I going to talk about today? But in Formula One, the season runs, and you got to think, right, in Formula One, they have to build a whole new car. Like they have to build from the ground up an entirely new machine that's worth, however many tens of millions of pounds, hundreds of millions worth of budget overall for development and all these other things. And they create that from, they start making it pretty much now, if not even earlier than now, for next March. But their season ends in December, and the first race is in March, and testing is at the end of February. So the most of December is a break, most of January is a break, and then maybe half of February. So it's basically 10 months on, 2 months off in F1.
Yeah.
And you see the same in most major sports, because why would you
have
not
half a year?
Yeah.
Call of Duty sometimes has sense. Yeah.
But loads of esports do this. Like Valorant's the same, and they're saying that, we're gonna basically make the schedule longer by just stretching it out.
Yeah,
but they play like no games in the season.
Yeah,
so
doesn't make it as fun.
Thing I would add is just a sixth major.
Yeah,
get us to 6 plus champs plus the World Cup. Like, I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah, that would be good. I think the big issue right now is just no one really wants to put money up to host events. Honestly, I think there's the 3 teams: OpTic, Toronto, and Boston, who you can count on, who want to host events. And that's it. So I give big props to them for going out there, putting their money where their mouths are, and putting on events for the players, from pro to challengers to the community, the fans watching, for people that go to the events, people that watch at home all around the world. Like, without the events, it would be boring. So it's glad we have a couple, but of course, more events is just better. Leads for more storylines, more entertaining gameplay, and more craziness that could happen. So hopefully we do get some more events in the format, just change a little bit soon. But you touched on expansion a little bit. If we had 4 new teams, what 4 locations would you want to see in the CDL?
I want to see no locations in the CDL.
No. Oh, you're a big location hater.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I think there's been some positive elements of it. Some teams like Toronto and Minnesota have done pretty well out of it. But I am definitely in the camp of, I like the Esports World Cup reminds me of kind of what it used to be like, because a lot of the teams there, they're representing now Cloud9, they're representing G2.
There's organizations.
And that's the way that it's going to go. Like, a lot of these organizations are going to they're going to want to be part of the World Cup in future years. So there's going to be a push towards this.
Yeah.
I think there's even talk about Toronto Ultra, like that. It may still be Toronto. And I don't really have a problem with it being that. Like, back in the day, we used to have the Pittsburgh Knights. Do you remember them as an organization that came around? And like, they would compete against like OpTic or whatever.
Yeah. And
nobody really said anything, right? It's like, oh, that, this organization is based out of this city. All right, cool. That's fine. What's stopping them playing against FaZe Clan, as it were, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there should be some sort of transitionary period where the league says, hey, if you guys want to keep the city thing, that's fine. If you don't, like, you're still going to be based somewhere, but the league is going to change a lot over the next couple of years. And I think the city-based thing probably, it was never necessary in the first place, certainly for a global thing like COD. I think the point initially was that, they're going to have these big stadiums in their cities, and that's where we're going to host the games. It's going to be like home and away. And because for some reason they tried to make it like, American
a real
football,
sport,
because they brought in people that had done American football and NBA and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's not necessary. It's actually counterproductive, because there's many things about esports that actually mean that we're more effective than regular sports in some ways. For example, we can actually play basically all day. Like, you don't have to play
you can't practice for 12 hours if you're playing American football or soccer or football. Like, you can't do that for 12 hours straight. COD, you could play for 12 hours a day, and your hands might be a little sore, but you'll still be fine for the most part.
Yeah, the idea of having a tournament that runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like, you can't do that in basically any regular sport.
Yeah, so the injuries would be crazy.
It would be insane, right? Okay, some sports you could do it, but like, mostly that's just not going to happen. So there's a few like advantages that esports has in many ways. It's also like just super like open and accessible, right? Like, there's no restrictions on. It's not like you've got to be 6'8+ to actually play, right?
Yeah.
So obviously there's genetic stuff in terms of who's good and who's bad, but like, it's there's so much cool stuff about esports that I feel like got sucked out of the scene to some degree with the city-based stuff. So I'm not really interested in that. I think it would be cool. We need something based in the UK, right? Like we need some sort of organization that's actually UK based. I'd like to see, for example, Fnatic come back in and actually have like a UK team, kind of how they did, like the team they had in Infinite Warfare with Tommy, Waskin, Scraps, and Sunny B. That's like a kind of streets won't forget team. Do you want to say that? So it would be cool to see something like that happen again, because a lot of the older organizations, they've now merged to some degree, like Splicer with Toronto, with Reserve,
FaZe and OpTic together.
Yeah, like
Rocker or G2 and V1 combined together. So
yeah, a lot of the big orgs kind of like combined. So I think 16 is like the best, just because it's 2 to the power of 4, right? Like it's a beautiful number. You can do so much with it. 12 is an awkward number. So
all right, and now talking about like content creation and YouTube, you're the master at it in the Call of Duty space. What would you say gets the most views? What topic? What would you say works best for your channel, or not even just for your channel, but what you've seen
in the COD space?
Yes, COD space.
The best time of year is always the Rostermania stuff. That's the thing that people love are always most interested in, is figuring out where people are going to go and the rumors behind the scenes. That's always the stuff that tends to do the best. The personalities, like, it matters to some degree. Obviously, I talk about OpTic a lot because they're the biggest team. That's just how it goes.
They just do the most content. They're the biggest team. Like, they're going to be up there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's other ways to make it work. I mean, I think what people might find interesting if they're trying to get into content creation is to just go and look at the Breaking Point YouTube channel and like sort by most popular or something, and just see the type of videos we've done there that have done well. Because those are some, like, often those topics are quite interesting. Like the video that I like scripted, and basically I didn't edit it, the boys edited it, but I scripted it and wrote the research for this video, was the like cheating moments, or when pros get caught, or something like that, that I made. And that was the most obvious banger video that I've ever made in my entire life. I was like, there's 0% chance this video doesn't absolutely bang, because
people love watching that stuff.
Cheating, hacking stuff always is killer. And like, so that was just an absolute free dub as far as I was concerned. I was like, okay, there's no way this video could possibly fail. I think the thing people have got to understand as well with content creation is like it depends. You can make videos like me, and I honestly think a lot of people, let's say you absolutely love golf, or you absolutely love, I don't know, travel, or like nuclear physics or something. I'm pretty sure you could make a video talking about the latest updates in these worlds, like me, basically every day, and probably do rather well. But the other option is, if you're really trying to have an eye for what content's actually going to work, a lot of the theory nowadays is around longer content. I think is maybe what I wanted to touch on briefly here, because I think there's a big thought towards, oh, it's all about the short form nowadays, because everyone's attention span is cooked. So, and that's true to some degree, but also people got to realize that you don't really make any money on shorts. You don't really make any money on TikTok. You make money if you, like, you know, transfer people to your main thing. And there are ways to make money on these platforms by integrations and TikTok shop and stuff like this, but that's not really how I like to do things. So we try and make videos that are like 30 plus minutes, 35 minutes, and very engaging, good thumbnail. Like I would say nowadays, not even nowadays, but half the success of the video is the thumbnail title combination.
Oh, of course.
Then half the success is the content, probably. So, you know, if you're trying to put together a video, you're going to want to be drafting up a number of different titles, a number of different thumbnail ideas. And then thankfully, YouTube even has a feature nowadays where you can A/B test this stuff like live. I think some channels have access to it. I think the Breaking Point one does. I don't even know if my personal one does, but I think no, maybe it does now. You can put thumbnails on there and it will like flip between the two and see which one performs better, and then it will keep that one. So it's just a bit of like special sauce. But I think the key point is you've just got to be very invested and passionate about what you're going to be talking about, or what you're going to try and put into the world. That is like the fundamental thing as far as I'm concerned, because a lot of people, they think, oh, this niche is going to be good because for whatever reason, but they're not really they don't really care that deeply.
Yeah,
about
to like live that and read it every day, study it every day, and like be invested into that, whatever it is every day. So like you have to actually love it, like you do for your channels.
Yeah,
that you
exactly.
do.
I mean, people think they're going to come into content creation and they're going to like make it inside 2 months. Like very rarely that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like you've got to be ready to commit to making content for, I would say, at least a year, if not more, without necessarily the expectation of big returns.
Yeah.
Like if you want to, you know, because for me, it took me at least 2.5 years to make it. Like I was making some money every month, but like I was making enough to maybe go for a pint or whatever. Like it took, you know, good 2.5 years really until it got to the point where it was even conceivable to be done as an actual job. So I think that's what people have to be more kind of prepared for.
Yeah.
The other point that I'll make quickly, it's like, I don't know if this is a true observation of mine, but there's a lot of like AI, right? So AI is everywhere, and AI is not, you can use it to your advantage. Like there was a time where I would use ChatGPT to draft me up F1 title ideas. I would say, hey, give me some video title ideas for this type of topic, and to be used in this way or whatever.
Yeah.
It would give me a couple of decent ideas. I feel like generally I could do a better job on my own, but it was usually quite nice to just see what it had to say.
Yeah.
But there's so much of that happening nowadays in like every sort of niche. Like in F1, a lot of the channels I compete with are like basically just made by computers. But I don't mind that, because like my feeling is it's obviously not real.
And you could tell.
Yeah.
Like the viewer could tell.
I think you get this is my theory, you get this kind of natural pushback the other way. Whereas actually with the prevalence of AI, what becomes more important is actually the person.
Yeah.
So, because I think people still want that kind of connection, especially when everything seems so, artificial.
Yeah, everything's so fake.
So I think that's kind of the point that I'd make to people is like, maybe instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to do like YouTube automation and like AI everything, there's probably a good argument to say that the opposite might actually be more effective. But that might just be my like bias speaking.
No, I mean, I could definitely see that and agree, because like when you watch an AI video, it's just like, oh, this might be really interesting or entertaining, but there's no connection to it because it's AI. But when it's your favorite YouTuber who you've watched every single day, and you find a YouTuber, you love his first video, you start watching him for the next 5 years, and next thing you know, you guys pretty much grew up together. So like that's just the human connection. I think people do like that, and with AI getting so big, I can see more people just be more involved, wanting to be more involved with humans, because humans like humans. So I can definitely agree with you there. But you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. But what's the most money you've made from a video that you've like directed on the Breaking Point channel or just on your channel? Like, what's the most views you've had and the most money made just from one video?
So the Scump Chrome documentary is probably still the favorite video that we've put together. We were gonna make it, and then this guy reached out to me who still works in, I believe he still works in Hollywood. He worked in Hollywood at the time. He was a video, like a movie editor for some like big A-list films that were coming out at the time. And he obviously watched my channel and was like, you know, hey, do you have any, I don't even know exactly what he said initially, but it's kind of like, do you have any projects that you'd be interested in working together on? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, so scripted up this this video, and then he did the editing for it, which is just why it's such a banger video. Like the way that the music is and everything, like the way that the storylines are emerging. I love the video so much, and we've made some great videos on the Breaking Point channel. I don't know, I know that video is over 1 million. I don't know how many it has now. It might be 1.1, 1.2 million. So I split the revenue 50-50 with him. But yeah, that video probably made about 6-7 grand, something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure the watch time was good on it.
Yeah, it might have been more, just because depends on the time that people are watching it as well. I think because that video, it did quite well in the lead up to Christmas, so like nice. It's why it's funny. Like I tried to get that video out as early as I could. I think we released it like early part of December. Yeah, so we at least had like 2-3 weeks of like nice juicy.
Everyone's putting their ads up.
Yeah, exactly. If people don't know, like in advertising on YouTube, the most money you make is in the final quarter of the year, because that's when the ad spend is highest, because you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Halloween to some degree, you've got Christmas. People are trying to sell loads of shit around that time. So like people will pay more to have their adverts on videos. And part of it is also that people just like, they don't spend all their advertising budget for the year, so they just splash it at the end of the year. Anyone's worked in a corporation, you'll probably know that's true to some degree. So yeah, and what you'll tend to find is in cards, the CPMs will be, I'm talking like pounds here, £4, £5, £6, depending on the type of year, something like that. So 1 million views is, £5 something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably, and we've had a few videos of decent views and stuff on the Breaking Point channel, but that's probably about right.
That's a banger video. It's a banger video for sure. It looks like it went great. That's crazy that a random just editor, filmmaker, producer just randomly watched and hit you up. Is like, yo, want to work together on this? And you're like, I bet. Like, you're like, this is perfect. Because usually it's
sometimes
like
the universe just does that.
Yeah, it's like, how else would you just know a guy in Hollywood that knows everything, but also knows like the ins and outs of Call of Duty, at least with like watching you and stuff. Like, that's not invested in it. It's kind of just crazy.
Stories, like, he also went through the entire YouTube audio library and found the best tracks on there. So like, I still have them saved if we need to do any other content, because he just found all the bangers, like for all the different moods that you wanted to bring out. So yeah, it's guys like that. I mean, like, just real perfectionist, like in some ways, I maybe wanted the video done earlier, but it was insisted that it was going to be done at the right pace, but it was going to be perfect, which is beautiful. I mean, it worked out.
And now talking about some more fun stuff when it comes to Intel Rostermania, because everyone likes to leak news. All the other, like all the accounts, you've even seen like so many new people just try to come out as like leakers nowadays with Rostermania. What's like the craziest source you've ever got something from? Like, have you ever gotten something directly from pro players, from coaches at an org? Like, where do you usually get like the Rostermania info from? Because like there's some things that I don't even know sometimes. I'll just be on vacation or something, not really on Twitter, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, this person's talking to this team and that. So because once like once a player's done with Rostermania, like I'll just give an example real quick. I was in Hawaii a couple years ago, and this is when I was renegotiating with Rocker, and I was like one of the main pieces of Rostermania. So I was like talking to all the orgs and all the players, so I knew exactly what was going on. But after I was done, like I checked out of it because like I was already done and signed, so there's nothing else for me to do. So how did you get all this stuff?
Yeah, that's interesting. To be honest, for me, I don't really try and get anything, because there's not much point. Like, I'm very rarely going to talk about something publicly before it's actually known, like before somebody else has talked about it. Because I could do that, but I just don't really see the point. Then you're getting into that whole journalism game. Like, I don't consider myself a journalist. I'm a content creator, really. I just yap about whatever happens. So I don't really try and like get information. I talked to a couple of people about what may or may not be going on during these periods. The craziest thing I've probably had is from parents of players.
Parents of players.
you get that sometimes. When like, or a parent or somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, or some roommate of some guy. And to be honest, some of it I don't even know if it's real or not, and I don't really massively care, because I'm like, well, if Jake Hell talks about it, if Crone talks about it, then I'll talk about it. Like, if they don't, and maybe I'll message them and say like, hey,
how real is this?
Like, is this real? But yeah, there's definitely been occasions where like a parent of a player will be like, hey, this is going on. And it might not even be a roster thing. It might be some sort of like team drama behind the scenes, some sort of contract drama that's going on that's not yet public information. And sometimes it's useful to know these things, because even if I don't talk about it, I can say something in like a bit of context. And there was a bit of drama, well, not drama, but like I mentioned about the whole phase, like Draza thing. And like, I didn't want to say too much, but like, okay, I'd heard a couple of things about stories, and I don't know if the stories are real or not, but it kind of like informs your perspective a little
there could
bit.
Potentially be some things out there.
Yeah, there could potentially be some things out there going on. And if you go to events, you'll hear stuff. It tends to be from the girlfriends of players, to be honest. Like, you'll hear some sort of yapping about
the girlfriends are giving out all the intel. No way.
I mean, what can I say? So sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't, so.
So you're on your own and like doing video, just creating content and stuff. But when did the idea come from you and everyone to form Breaking Point? Because I know that's like a pretty big team, and it started with like a lot of analysts that were in COD that would just do all like the stats from behind the scenes. But then, of course, you do content. Then there was what? There was Crone, the other like Intel people as well. Like, how did that idea just become to form like this pretty much alliance between everyone?
Yeah, that was a cool time. I mean, I think it was like late 2020 now. I think we're probably coming up on like 4 years, when we had this idea to try and, it's because the seed deal had come around and the stats websites didn't really exist in the same way. And we thought, all right, like, can we make some sort of one-stop website where we'll track the stats and we'll do like an ESPN for COD or HLTV basically for COD, was kind of the idea. And then we're like, well, yeah, we could make, and also at the same time for me, I was kind of thinking, well, I have other ideas for content that I want to make rather than just the daily news stuff that I do. But I can't necessarily, I can put them on my channel, but because they're not quite the usual content and because they'll usually get like swamped, right? So imagine I make a video that's a bit different to normal, and then, 8 hours or 16 hours later, I put a normal video up. Like sometimes that video just isn't going to find a spot. Like it's just going to be forgotten about in the algorithm. So there was a few ideas I had for either documentary pieces or kind of like analysis videos on like a clutch or something like that. A few of those cool things we did that it would have been nice to have another home for. So I was like, yeah. So we got involved with, mainly it was like Easy Mac and Lion Man, and obviously Crone came involved at some point, and we had like a graphics guy. And then eventually, we had someone come on to effectively run the show from like an operational perspective to actually make it work, and has pushed like the partnerships we have and the website production. That's been like the big project of the last year or so, is creating the new website, and everything that has to happen on the back ends to actually make that work. It's big project, big challenge, but it's been fun. And it means we get to do cool stuff like go to the events, do the watch parties, all sorts of content and the shows. And I think it's just been, I think everyone in the scene wants the same thing, like I had a quick chat with Daniel, say like the commissioner, about this at Champs, right? Is that like, because it was cool to see him there at like the biggest event we've had. And I love having conversations with like everyone in the space, because we all want this to be great, and I think the community is actually really aligned on that. As much as often people come at each other's necks or whatever, like I think a lot of people really just want the best for the esport, and I think that's always cool to see.
Yeah. Also, by the way, thank you for making me the 17th best player of MW3 TacticalRab.
Congratulations.
That makes me happy.
Well, higher on my list, you're number one on mine.
But... Yeah. I appreciate that. You're making me blush now. But what does a day in the life at a event nowadays look for you? Like, what's your schedule from the Thursday the event starts? How's it looking?
Oh, it's so boring. Well, I would say boring. I mean, it's exciting, but like,
it's boring to you because you've been doing it for so long. The other people, they don't know what you do.
Like,
so
day in the life for me is I could do a day in the life like living at home and stuff, and it would be interesting one time. It's only interesting if I'm actually like got something to do during the day. At an event, I'll try and get there now on like at least by the Tuesday, because the Wednesday I want to get to the venue, set some things up. And usually Wednesday is the day where I'll go out and have a couple of drinks. I won't be out too late, but at least I can have a couple of drinks on that day, because the other days it's usually quite difficult. Every day I'm up at 6 every day at the events, because I need to get the first video out ideally by 8, because that's the time that I upload it on a match day in the UK, 8 a.m. Eastern. So if I'm in Boston or Toronto, like I got to be up at 6 to make that happen. And in Dallas, I was still getting up at 6, and it was working out okay. Maybe the video be a little bit late, but that's kind of what I had to do. So I usually make the videos until like 9, have breakfast, head to the venue for like 11, half 11, something like that. Try and run the pre-show from like midday until whenever the matches start, 1:30. It'll be at a normal major. run the watch party during the day. It's I find the streams like really tiring, like to sit there all day and watch the game, especially if you're watching like, you know, gorillas play.
You're just watching boring games, like yeah, you're just watching boring games.
It's like these teams aren't making a run anyway.
Yeah.
It's sometimes if like there's two teams playing that aren't very good quality, it can be entertaining.
Yeah, because it can be so close.
Like, yeah, exactly. But
the battle of the mid.
Many of those series, exactly. Yeah, one of those series is enough. Like some of the Fridays at the events, and also when the events go on long.
Yeah.
So then during the day we'll do other stuff like, you know, go around, meet some people, do some fun stuff at the event. Sometimes I try and like go crash out in the green rooms where the casters are, just like chill there for a bit. Try and maybe grab a banana or something, like, because they've got some snacks in there and stuff. Keep me going a little bit. That's one of the hard things about events, is keeping like fed and watered and stuff.
Yeah, like because the only food we can eat is the event food, or you have to like Uber eat something to the arena, go outside, get it. Sometimes they don't let you bring food in, so it's a mess.
It is. It actually is more like, you'd think, oh, you're going to the States, Aaron, like you're gonna be piling all the pounds. But like sometimes I lose weight at the events because I just don't have time to eat. And then the games will end. Before the games end, I'll usually go back to my hotel so I can make the video like straight away. So I usually miss the last game. And then as soon as the last game ends, I make the video. And then on some days, that might be 7 p.m., 6:30. So then we'll go out for food. And on some days, that might just be, all right, I've got to go to bed. Like, because if it's 10:30, 11, I've just got to crash out, get up at 7, get up at 6 the next day, and then run it back. So that's like, I think that's one thing that I learned, is that you've just really got to pace yourself at these events, especially when you're doing a lot of content during the weekend, is that you will crash out bad if you are at the event all day and you're trying to go out.
You're trying to go crazy every night. Like,
you know, you could do it if you've only got to be back at the event next day for like, you know, 1, 2 p.m.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to get up at 6 a.m., it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So I have to be patient. And then on Sunday, I'll enjoy myself for a couple hours, you know, go to the after party, whatever.
Of course.
But I'll still be up at 6 the next day. So, you know,
and
that's the life.
Yeah. It's a busy life, but it's fun. So what is the like best or your favorite event that you've ever attended?
Oh, I think my best memories of an event is, I mean, it's tough to beat London 2019, I think. Like, that event kind of is still in the history books for very good reason.
Yeah. That was the one where the whole FaZe LG thing happened. I was like, what do we think of LG? Shit. What do we think of shit, LG?
You can actually see me in the crowd on that video.
Really?
You can even find it if you wanted. Like, I'm wearing this weird checkered shirt and I've got my glasses on.
Yeah.
And you know, we're all in a row talking shit, and just, you know, the pints were coming through. It was a great time. I mean, what I really enjoyed about that event was after the event was over, like we went to the casino, all the players. It was the first time I'd done anything like that. And we were just at like the casino bar it was a casino in Stratford. I forget the name of it. It might be an Asper's Casino, like near Stratford or something.
Yeah, the one in the mall.
In the Westfield. Yeah. Like, it was that one. Yeah, there's like this bar there. Like, I'd never been to a casino before, and at the bar with all the pros, and like Marky B bought me a drink, and like, I bought Shane a drink, or apparently like I bought Slasher a drink or something, which I didn't even know, and he told me about it recently.
No way. You blacked out?
Yeah.
You blacked out?
I don't even know. Like, but that was, I do have fond memories of that one, for sure. Anaheim was good as well, which is the one that I attended after that, the same kind of thing, like the Hilton Bar and everything. But I was kind of unwell that event. Like, I picked something up on the plane, so I can't say that's my favorite.
Yeah.
And then since then, I mean, probably I loved Champs this year.
Oh, Champs was amazing.
I think my favorite event I went to this year was probably Toronto this year, just because of like also the location as well.
Yeah, Toronto's a great city.
Where it is in the heart of Toronto.
Yeah.
I couldn't live in Toronto. It's too
much.
Too busy, too much going on. But to be there for a few days is fantastic.
Yeah, Toronto's dope.
So many great places just around the corner. Beautiful city.
Yeah.
So I think, like, all things considered, those are the two that are probably at the top of my list.
Yeah, Toronto's amazing. I always look forward to going to Toronto. It's so much fun. And Champs was crazy. I was sitting there watching. Word to Haggy.
Sitting there watching.
I went there only Saturday, and it was the loudest I've ever heard it. So I can only imagine how loud it was Sunday when OpTic was playing. Like, it was probably insane. So speaking of that event, what do you think of like the whole drama with like the OpTic Champs hosting thing? Like, what was your personal take on how everything broke down?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was fine. I mean, at the end of the day, ideally the league should be hosting the World Championship, but it isn't, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
Somebody else could have hosted it, and OpTic stepped up and did a mega job. I'm actually
Yeah.
really happy that OpTic hosted it because I think they really set the bar in terms of what needs to happen for these big events, like the way that it should be structured, the center stage, the type of venue to use, the walkouts, you know, the orchestra they had on the Sunday.
That was crazy.
Like, so many cool ideas they were putting on, and I'm really happy that they had that to make work. At the end of the day, that type of setting and venue is always gonna, you know, I think OpTic always gonna have some sort of advantage at any type of event.
Every event we go to, they're gonna have the most fans. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It, like, you know, you can argue whether it's an advantage or not. I think it depends on the players you have, right? Because a player like Pred absolutely feeds off that type of energy.
Yeah, he does, for sure.
Like, you know, Pred is not going to be the same guy at a LAN studio with no crowd.
He says himself that he's top 8 or worse, worse at events with no fans. Because I think their Seattle team, they won a major, went to a tournament in like Ohio.
That's true.
They got like 12th. He had of course, with OpTic no fans, he got 8th or 12th. And then next event he wins with the crowd. So I feel like he loves that energy, and like you can hear it in his comms too, just how much energy he brings. So like if he has people feeding that to him, he's gonna bring it even more, and then it's gonna infect everyone, and the energy's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I think they did a killer job putting it on.
Yeah, like, it was
in an ideal world, maybe as kind of like a purist, maybe I'd have preferred if they didn't bother with the drums. But like at the end of the day, I don't really care.
Yeah.
And I think it's just one of those things that is a positive for the scene overall. So
yeah. At this point, I'm just happy people are hosting events. So whoever wants to host an event, if you want to host an event, hats off to you. Thank you.
It is possible to like make money from it or break even for it. Like I'm pretty sure that Toronto, when they do theirs, like it's not just a bottomless pit of money. Like it can be done. Like if you have the right connections with partners and you can bring them into the venue and you have space to make that happen. Like it is possible to make these things work. It's just naturally expensive to hire a big event in the center of a city for 4 days.
Yeah.
Like it ain't cheap.
No, definitely not.
So that's the fundamental issue. Whereas as we've talked about earlier, like if you're a football team with a big stadium, like that's your stadium, right?
Yeah. Do whatever you want there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what are your long-term goals when it comes to content? Your own personal channel, and then also like Breaking Point, like what do you want to do or achieve within like 5 or even like 10 years? Do you have like any number goals, or like what's your thing?
Yeah, that's a question that I've asked myself with a reasonable frequency, I think. At some point in the last couple of like years, I kind of stopped thinking about things in terms of like 5-year, 10-year.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's very helpful, because I have no idea what my life is going to look like in 5 years' time. My life 5 years ago was so different. Like where I was working, the type of person I was, who I was friends with, where I was living, how things are going in general was just so different. Like I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years' time. I don't know where I'm going to be living in 5 years' time. I might not be living in the UK. I might be living in the US or Canada or Italy or bloody like.
You might already hit 1 billion views, go on yachts, private jets within 2 years. So who knows?
Yeah, so you can't really predict. I don't think it's really helpful to try and like plan that far ahead, because you want to be fluid and
just focus on the moment
might arise. Because opportunities arise in all sorts of fields all of the time if you're paying enough attention to them. I think my main goal, I mean, Breaking Point is great and I love what we're doing over there. And the plan with that is to expand and make that work in other esports, and other sports actually in general. We're thinking of like how we expand into like regular sports as well.
Yeah.
I think my goal though is kind of what I've done in COD. I really want to replicate that in F1.
Yeah.
That's the goal that I'm working towards, because I love the Call of Duty stuff. And someone asked me a question actually at the champs. They were like, if you had to give up one channel between COD and F1, what would you give up?
No way.
And it was a really hard channel. I actually think maybe it was just because I was at the venue, but like I said, I just don't think I could like stop the COD community, because it's so good. I love the COD community so much.
You would leave us is what you're about to tell me.
Yeah, I don't think I could. And thankfully I don't have to. I can be back. But like, but it's a question, right? Because the F1 scene obviously is bigger. The
Yeah.
F1 channel right now is the biggest channel by viewership and revenue and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And has really blown up this year, which is awesome. And hopefully that can continue. But what I'd love to get to the point as is in cards where, you know, myself and the guys at Breaking Point, we get to come along to the events
Yeah.
and get like a little pass to walk around the events. And F1's completely different gravy in terms of that. Like,
Oh yeah, you need to have the connections.
Next level. Yeah, exactly right. You got to have connections. It's a big challenge, but I'd love to get to the point where I'd be able to, like, you know, attend the F1 Grand Prix
Yeah,
as
that'd be insane.
you know, a guest to the paddock or something like that,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's where I want to get to with this in the next few years. That's kind of what like gets me up in the morning.
Yeah.
Is growing that channel.
No, that's fine. That'd be crazy. Okay. Remember this. I'm down to just go to one F1 race. Just take me to one F1 race. We'll go on the track and everything will be fun. But it also kind of breaks my heart that it sounds like you'd rather spend a day, 24 hours with Lewis Hamilton rather than attached. So it is what it is. I know I won't win 100 plus championships like him, but it's okay if you want to break my heart and go hang out with Lewis. I understand. He's a GOAT. He's a GOAT.
We can do both. That's my guy. Like, I'll bring you along.
We'll bring him to a COD event.
Yeah, perfect.
Is there anything you're looking forward to in the new release of Black Ops 6?
The maps, I think, probably the main one. That's always the thing that kind of. It's always the maps for me. I also just haven't really enjoyed. There's something about a Treyarch game. I don't know what it is. There's something about the way that it feels from like a gunplay perspective, which is just more enjoyable to play. Like, I just don't like playing. Like, I actually got MW3 this year. I didn't even buy MW2. I bought.
You didn't miss out on MW2.
Yeah, I didn't even buy the thing. Well, as you're saying, but it was the first time I'd not done that. Yeah. I bought Vanguard and I played it for about 20 minutes, and then I didn't play it ever again. Like, I just didn't enjoy the games.
Yeah.
And even just the gunplay, it's just not fun. Black Ops Cold War, though, I could play that game a lot. Like, the sound of the hit markers, the way the game works, I don't know. It's just very satisfying to me. So I think that's kind of what I'm looking forward to most. I don't know how much Black Ops 6 I'm actually going to play, but I'm going to get it because you're telling me that Fringe is coming back. You're telling me that Hacienda's coming back. Like, you know, I'm logging into some GBs on that. Like, no doubt about it. GBs don't even exist anymore.
You're logging into some online, some eights, some tournaments, some chows.
Something like that.
Rank play, something.
Yeah, but also just like the fact that this game has been ready for a while, we think. I don't know if it's been ready for a while, but the rumor has it that like because Treyarch have had so long since the last one, and the game is very polished. So Treyarch have always aligned with what we want to see from the competitive side. So I'm just hoping that this year we get a great game and we also have a great structure of the league because unfortunately when Black Ops 3 was out, we had one, but we had like 4 events or something.
Barely any LAN events. MLG had to come save the day.
Exactly, which was unfortunate. Because that was a weird transition year, right?
Yeah.
As the CWL came around. So, you know, hopefully we get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. And another big thing for Black Ops 6 that has going for it is Attach. He actually thinks that it will be the best video game of all time as well. So
wow, no
there's
way.
a lot of
said that.
Yeah, no, he I think he said it. We'll have to check up. Maybe when he plays it again, he'll give his some more opinions on it. But that's very rare to see. So do you think it has potential to be the best video game of all time? Very harsh critic. Very harsh.
I mean, it's interesting what Kenny had to say about like the omnidirectional movement thing.
Yeah.
I think he basically said that once you play with it a bit, you tend to think, why is it never been this way? As
that's good.
As a concept.
Good sign.
Which is an interesting, it does kind of align with what you're saying, right? Because ideally it's like as good as the old track games, but with some feature that makes it better.
I'm never wrong. Just early. Except for MW2. I was wrong about MW2 2023. I was wrong about that one. But all right. That's it for me. Thank you so much for joining the show today. Make sure you guys check out TacticalRab's channel, his COD channel, his F1 channel. What other channels do you have? How many channels do you got total that you're actively working on?
So I have 3 channels that I run. I do 2 videos on the COD channel every day. I do 1 video on the Valorant channel every day.
Damn.
And then I do 1 video on the F1 channel every day. So I do 4 a day.
So you're grinding.
I don't always I'll always try and do the COD videos. That's almost, it's interesting that because per video they actually get like the least views probably on average of the channels because the other games are bigger in some respects. But like those are always the non-negotiables. Like I always make sure I get the 2 COD videos out. That's very, very rare circumstances. The Valorant, sometimes it's interesting, right? Because Valorant's another big game, but in COD there's always just so much happening. Like, there's always enough happening in COD to do 2 videos a day. Like basically always. In Valorant, sometimes it's like, is there even going to be enough to do 1 today? And the also thing with Valorant is the timings are weird. So like right now they've got the World Championship going on in Korea. So the games are happening as I'm like recording the video in the morning. So it's kind of like, if I've got to go somewhere, I can't really make the video because you know, depending on timing and stuff. The F1 video is now, I've tried to make that like when I go away and stuff to events, I will sacrifice the Valorant video over the F1 video. Like I can't, I think I've come to the realization in the last year or so that I don't necessarily need to make sure that I have 4 videos a day every day, no matter what the circumstances.
You would like to, but it's not.
I'd like to, but like I used to beat myself up over it if I didn't. But I think, you know, it doesn't really matter. People are still going to be there in a day's time when I'm back with another one. So yeah, work on those 3 channels. I'm not as absolutely wedded to the idea that I'm gonna make a video every day no matter what. Valorant Rostermania will be coming up soon, which is interesting. I want to get the channels to 100k. That's the plan. We've got 1 silver plaque here. 100k.
Need a couple more.
Channel. I want the second one here, and then the third one. I don't know. Maybe it's gonna go here. I don't know.
We'll figure it out when it gets there. We'll figure it out when it gets there.
That's the plan. The Valorant channel I want to get to 100k. When I get the Valorant channel to 100k, I wonder if I will be in a position to keep it going or not, because I think there is a world in which I just say, you know what, I just want to focus on F1 and keep the COD stuff going. Depending on what my life is like at the time, depending on if I want to free up an extra hour and a bit a day, depends. There's always a trade-off. But that's the way things are currently going.
No. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. I know you have an insanely busy schedule, so I'm glad this is pretty much like your 5th or 6th YouTube video of the day so far. Nah, but for real, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I mean, it's been it was a pleasure. Always good to talk to you. Great to see yourself.
It was good to learn so much about you.
As always at these events.
My mom was always in the breaking point. She was like, "You, what Breaking Point said about you today?" I'm like, "I don't know, Mom. What'd they say?"
Hopefully it wasn't even too bad. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. I do.
Of course, guys, if you made it to the end, thank you so much. Make sure to check all of TacticalRab's everything. Go get his Valorant channel to 100k. Go show love to his F1 channel. Boost that revenue and the views up. But thank you so much for coming on the show, brother.
Appreciate it.